valley hides 10,000 years, and a city hides underground, 18 stories deep, built by people running from the sky itself. This isn't one country. It's a place where the impossible keeps turning out to be true. 2 continents, one ground beneath them, and a silence older than every religion built on top of it. Turkey doesn't ask you to imagine its past. It hands it to you still standing. Dawn breaks over the Bosphorus, and for a moment, the city holds its breath. Istanbul does not choose between east and west. It refuses to choose. It simply contains both, the way a single heart can hold 2 rhythms at once. Minarets pierce a golden sky, their call to prayer drifting over rooftops that have watched empires rise and empires fall, Byzantine, then Ottoman, then modern Turkish, each layer built upon the last, like sediment upon a riverbed. The Hagia Sophia stands here, first a church, then a mosque and a museum, and now a mosque once more. A building that has changed its faith 4 times, yet never lost its majesty. Beneath its vast dome, sunlight falls the way it fell 15 centuries ago, patient, unhurried, indifferent to the arguments of men. Walk through the Grand Bazaar, and you walk through 600 years of commerce. Spice, silk, gold, and whispered secrets, all beneath the same vaulted stone ceilings the Ottomans once carved. Merchants still call out in a dozen languages, as they have since caravans first arrived from the Silk Road. Ferries cross the strait below, carrying commuters from Asia to Europe in 18 unremarkable minutes. A journey that once took empires centuries to comprehend, now folded into a single cup of tea, sipped on deck, while gulls trace slow circles overhead. At night, the Topkapi Palace glows behind its garden walls, once home to sultans, their harems, their treasuries of emerald and gold, now silent, its courtyards open only to the wind. Down by the water, fishermen still cast their lines from the Galata Bridge, exactly as their fathers did, and their fathers before them, while beneath their feet, restaurants fill with the smell of grilled fish and fresh bread, carried on smoke into the evening air. Istanbul is not a city you visit, it is a city that visits you, long after you've left. Inland, away from the sea, lies a different kind of city. Ankara does not perform for the camera. It does not need to. This is the capital born of resolve, the city Ataturk chose when a nation had to be rebuilt from ash. Its identity redrawn on a map still warm from war. Here, the mausoleum of Anıtkabir rises in solemn limestone, guarded not by soldiers alone, but by silence. Visitors walk the Lion's Road in quiet rows, past statues that represent strength and reflection and peace. The very values the Republic was built upon. This is modern Turkey's quiet heart, steady, deliberate, and unshaken, where Istanbul dazzles, Ankara endures. On the windswept coast of the Aegean lies a mound of earth that swallowed a legend. For centuries, scholars believed Troy was only a story, a poem, a wooden horse, and a war fought for love, sung by a blind man named Homer, passed down by firelight for 1,000 years before it was ever written. Then they began to dig, layer beneath layer, 9 cities, stacked upon one another like pages in a forgotten book, until they found it. Troy was real, its walls, its gates, its ash, proof that myth and memory are not always strangers to one another. Stand here now, among the ruins, and the wind carries something older than sound. Somewhere beneath your feet, Achilles walked, Hector fell, and history proved once again that myth is only truth, waiting to be excavated. Further south, the ancient world reveals its grandest stage, Ephesus, once among the greatest cities of the Roman Empire, 200,000 souls, moving through streets of polished marble beneath temples built to honor gods who no longer receive prayer. The Library of Celsus still stands, its facade rising in golden light, as if the scholars might return at any moment to climb its steps and reclaim the 12,000 scrolls once kept safe within its walls. Walk the Curate's way, and your footsteps fall exactly where senators, merchants, and emperors once walked. The stones are worn smooth by centuries of ambition, the ruts of chariot wheels still visible in the marble beneath your feet. Nearby, the great theatre opens like a stone amphitheatre carved into the hillside, capable of holding 25,000 spectators, its acoustics so precise that even now, a whispered word from center stage reaches the very last row. Nothing here is a replica, nothing is rebuilt for tourists. This is simply Rome, forgetting to disappear. Now, the landscape changes entirely. Imagine a mountainside, frozen not in ice, but in white. Terraces of mineral stone, sculpted by thermal springs over hundreds of thousands of years, cascading down the hill like a frozen waterfall. They call it Pamukkale, the cotton castle, and from a distance, it truly looks as though snow refused to melt beneath a Mediterranean sun, its bright travertine pools catching the light like scattered mirrors. The water here is warm, rich with calcium, and legend says, healing. Ancient Romans believed it too. They built the city of Hierapolis right beside it, a spa town for the empire's weary and wealthy, complete with baths, temples, and an acropolis whose tombs still line the road to the springs. Step into the pools and you step into water that has been flowing since before Rome had an emperor. Bare feet on warm stone, mineral water sliding gently past your ankles. A sensation unchanged for 2,000 years. The coastline south is where Turkey exhales. Ölüdeniz, the blue lagoon, where turquoise water meets green pine mountains, so vivid it seems almost artificial. Paragliders drift above it like slow-falling leaves, launching from the cliffs of Babadağ, watching the color shift beneath them with every gust of wind. Not far away, Patara Beach unfurls for 18 kilometers of untouched sand. No towers, no noise, just dunes, and the hush of waves that have rolled in the same rhythm for millennia. This was once a great harbor of Lycia, birthplace of Saint Nicholas himself, its ancient ruins now half buried beneath drifting sand. Now, the beach belongs to loggerhead turtles, who return each summer to lay their eggs in sand that remembers them. hidden between cliffs, reachable only by boat or by will, lies a canyon locals call Butterfly Valley. Here, thousands of tiger butterflies rise each summer from the wildflowers below, filling the gorge with slow, silent color, their wings catching sunlight that filters down through steep canyon walls. Elsewhere, the roar returns. At Manavgat, a waterfall spreads wide rather than tall, not plunging, but unfolding, like a curtain of white water drawn across the river. Mist rising into the warm afternoon air. Turkey does not repeat itself. Every valley offers a different kind of quiet, or a different kind of thunder. Inland once more, toward the plains of Anatolia, lies Konya, the spiritual home of the Sufi mystic Rumi. Here, in the 13th century, Rumi taught that love was the truest form of prayer and that the way to God was found not through stillness, but through turning. His writings still guide millions, translated into languages he never lived to hear spoken. Even today, dervishes spin in white robes and tall felt hats, arms outstretched, one palm to the heavens, one to the earth, becoming for a moment a bridge between the two. The music rises slowly. A single reed flute, then drums, then strings, drawing the dancers into motion. It is called Sema, a meditation in motion. Round and round they turn, robes flaring like white blossoms, faces calm, eyes half closed, lost entirely in the rhythm. To witness it is to understand that some prayers are danced, not spoken. Nothing prepares you for Cappadocia. Millions of years ago, volcanoes buried this land in ash. Wind and rain did the rest, carving soft stone into towers, cones, and spires the locals call fairy chimneys, standing in silent clusters across the valley floor. At dawn, the sky fills with hot air balloons, dozens, then hundreds, rising silently over a landscape that looks less like Earth and more like the surface of some quieter, older world. Their shadows sliding gently over rock and vineyard below. People have lived inside these rock formations for centuries. Entire homes, churches, and monasteries carved directly into stone, their frescoes still faintly visible after 1,000 years of candlelight. Saints and angels painted onto walls no wider than a modern hallway. Some caves are now quiet hotels, their stone walls still holding the day's warmth long after sunset. Others remain exactly as they were left, empty, echoing, waiting. And beneath it all, an even greater secret waits. Descend here, and you leave the sunlight behind. Derinkuyu is an underground city, carved 18 stories into the earth, capable of sheltering 20,000 people, along with their livestock, their food stores, even their wine cellars. Massive stone doors, shaped like millstones, could seal each level from the inside, built to keep invaders out and life safely in. Ventilation shafts, some sunk over 80 meters deep, still carry cool air through the tunnels today, exactly as they did centuries ago. Entire civilizations sought refuge down here, in tunnels barely wide enough for one man to pass, living for weeks at a time without ever seeing the sun. It is one thing to build a city. It is another to build one you can hide. We return now to where our story began. Göbekli Tepe, older than Stonehenge by 6,000 years, older than the pyramids, older than agriculture itself. Massive T-shaped pillars, arranged in careful circles, carved with foxes, scorpions, and vultures, built by hunter-gatherers who had not yet learned to farm, yet somehow already understood how to build monuments to the divine. Dragging stones weighing many tons across open ground with nothing but rope, timber, and collective will. This single hillside forced historians to rewrite the opening chapter of human civilization. For decades, scholars assumed farming came first, and worship followed. Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite. Perhaps it was not agriculture that built the first temple. Perhaps it was the temple that built the first village. High above the Anatolian plains, at over 2,000 meters, an ancient king built himself a monument fit for the gods. King Antiochus, the first ordered colossal stone heads carved his own face, alongside those of Zeus, Apollo, and Hercules, and placed them atop a mountain so that he might rest for eternity among them, closer to the heavens than to the kingdom he once ruled. Time and earthquakes have since toppled the bodies. Only the heads remain, scattered across the summit, gazing out in silence over valleys their king once commanded. Climb here at sunrise, in the thin cold air before the light arrives, and watch it strike stone faces older than empires, turning grey stone to amber, then gold, vanity carved into permanence, and still, somehow, humbled by the dawn. Further east, the land grows vast and quiet and wild. Lake Van stretches to the horizon, Turkey's largest lake. Its waters an impossible shade of blue, so alkaline that only one small fish species can survive within it. Fishermen still cast their nets from small wooden boats, much as their grandfathers did, and beyond the lake, rising alone above the clouds, stands Mount Ararat, Turkey's highest peak, snow-capped even in summer. Wrapped in stories older than nations, visible for miles across the flat plains that surround it. They say this is where Noah's Ark came to rest after the Great Flood receded. True or not, standing in its shadow, dwarfed by nearly 17,000 feet of ancient rock and ice, you understand why a mountain this vast could hold a story this old. Far to the southwest, hidden among pine hills, lies a lake so strange. NASA once studied its shoreline to prepare for Mars. Lake Salda's white, mineral-rich sands and impossibly turquoise water resemble no other place in Turkey, or perhaps anywhere on Earth. Scientists believe its shoreline mineral deposits mirror those once found on the Martian surface, billions of years ago, when Mars may have had water and perhaps even life of its own. A lake in Anatolia, offering clues to another planet. Turkey, it seems, contains multitudes. And finally, tucked into a river gorge in the north, lies Amasya, a city the Ottomans once called the City of Princes. Rock-cut tombs of Pontic kings loom over the town, carved directly into the cliffside more than 2,000 years ago, illuminated at night so they seem to hover, golden, above the rooftops below. Below them, Ottoman wooden houses lean gently over the Yeşilırmak River, their reflections trembling in the current, much as they have for 300 years. Amasya does not shout for attention, it simply waits, patiently, for those willing to look up. From a temple older than time to a lake that mirrors Mars, Turkey is not one place. It is many worlds folded into one land. Some countries you visit, Turkey you remember.